All right, let's jump into this deep dive. And we're focusing on Flare today and their push for better Web3 security. Specifically, we're looking into this partnership they've got going on with Chain Patrol. Yeah, we've got a whole bunch of articles and announcements and all that stuff. And security in Web3 can be a bit of a headache sometimes, like trying to walk through a minefield. So we're going to try and break down why this whole partnership thing is actually a big deal for you, for the users out there.
Yeah, it's a pretty big development for sure. Flare, they're a blockchain platform, and their approach to security is really interesting. They're not just partnering up with Chain Patrol, they're working with a bunch of different companies. You've got Immunify, Hypernative, Elliptic. It's like they're building an actual fortress over there.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I noticed too. It's not just one solution, it's a whole multi-layered strategy they've got going on. But before we get into the nitty-gritty of Chain Patrol, I think it's important to understand the whole landscape, right? What are the biggest security challenges that users are facing in Web3 these days? What are we actually up against here?
Think of it like this. It's like the Wild West, but, digital. There's a lot of opportunities, but also a ton of risks. Phishing is a huge one, where scammers try to trick you into giving up your private keys or seed phrases, all that sensitive stuff. Then you've got social engineering, where they try to manipulate you into making bad decisions. And impersonation attacks are becoming more and more common, where someone pretends to be a legitimate project or person to steal your funds.
So it's not just about the technology itself being vulnerable. It's about them exploiting human error.
Exactly. And that's what makes these threats so difficult to combat, You
Uh,
can have the most secure code in the world, but if someone falls for a phishing scam, all that security goes out the window.
okay, so the threats are real, and they're targeting us, the users. So what's Flare doing about it? This is where their approach gets really interesting. You mentioned they're working with all these different security companies. Can you break down why each partner is so crucial to their overall strategy?
Absolutely, yeah. Each partner addresses a different piece of the security puzzle, right? Immunify, for example, they specialize in bug bounties. They incentivize ethical hackers to find and report vulnerabilities in Flare's code so they can fix them before they're exploited. And then Hypernative, they provide real-time risk monitoring. They're using AI to analyze transactions and flag anything that looks suspicious, giving Flare a heads up if something shady is going on.
So Immunify is like having a quality control team constantly testing the code, and Hypernative is like having a security camera watching for anything unusual.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Then you've got Elliptic, which focuses on regulatory compliance. They help Flare navigate the complex world of AML and KYC regulations, making sure they're meeting all the legal requirements. And to top it all off, Flare also works with institutional-grade custodians like Fireblocks and Hextrust. These companies specialize in securely storing digital assets, so it's like an extra layer of protection for user funds.
So it sounds like by partnering with all these different companies, Flare is essentially covering all its bases. It's like having a team of specialists, each with their own area of expertise, working together to protect the platform.
Exactly, precisely. And that brings us to Chain Patrol, which is arguably the most unique piece of this whole puzzle.
All right, so let's dive into Chain Patrol. What exactly do they bring to the table?
Chain Patrol is an AI-powered threat intelligence platform. They provide real-time protection against a whole range of Web3 threats. It's pretty impressive. Imagine it like a digital guardian that's constantly scanning the Web3 landscape, looking for any signs of danger.
Okay, that sounds good in theory, but how does that actually work in practice? AI is a bit of a buzzword these days. Everyone's claiming to use it.
Yeah, that's true. What's really fascinating about Chain Patrol is how they combine AI with human expertise. They're not just relying on algorithms. Their AI engine analyzes massive amounts of data from all sorts of sources. You've got Discord, Slack, Telegram, over 20 crypto wallets, even the dark web. It's looking for patterns and anomalies that could indicate a scam or an attack in progress. This could be anything from suspicious language in a Discord message to a sudden spike in transactions on a particular token, things that just don't look right.
So it's not just about identifying known threats. It's about detecting new and emerging ones before they can cause widespread damage, right? That's where the human element comes in.
Exactly. The AI does the heavy lifting in terms of data analysis, but Chain Patrol also has a team of security experts monitoring the system 24/7. They verify the AI's findings, investigate potential threats, and take immediate action to mitigate any damage. This could involve blocking suspicious transactions, warning users about potential scams, or even shutting down malicious websites.
So it's like having an early warning system, but with actual human intelligence backing it up.
Hmm.
That sounds incredibly valuable in the fast-paced world of Web3 where things can change so quickly.
Absolutely. In Web3, where transactions are irreversible, speed is everything. The faster you can identify and respond to a threat, the less damage it can cause, and that's where Chain Patrol really excels.
All right, so we've got a good understanding of what Chain Patrol does and how they use AI and human expertise to protect users. But how does this partnership specifically benefit someone using the Flare platform?
Well, for starters, it gives them peace of mind, knowing that their assets are being constantly monitored and protected. They can explore the world of Web3 without constantly looking over their shoulder, worried about falling victim to a scam.
That peace of mind is great in theory, but does it have a real impact on the user experience? Does it actually change how they interact with Flare?
Think of it this way. By reducing the risk of scams and attacks, Chain Patrol is allowing Flare users to engage with the platform more confidently. They can explore new projects, invest in tokens, and participate in decentralized applications without constantly worrying about losing their funds. This enhanced security leads to a more vibrant and active community on the platform, which in turn leads to greater adoption and growth.
So security isn't just about preventing losses. It's about creating an environment where users feel comfortable taking risks and exploring new opportunities.
Exactly. And that's what makes Chain Patrol's role in Flare's security strategy so important. It's not just about protecting users from harm, it's about empowering them to participate more fully in the Web3 ecosystem.
This is starting to make a lot of sense now. Flare is clearly taking security seriously, and their approach goes beyond just adding a few basic safeguards. They're building a comprehensive system that protects users on multiple levels. But we've only scratched the surface here. Let's dig a little deeper into how this all works in practice.
One thing that really stands out to me about Chain Patrol, they're not just some new startup, they're not just trying to make a quick buck. They've got a proven track record. They're protecting some pretty big names in the industry already.
But okay, yeah, like
Yes.
who else trusts them with their security? I'm curious.
Well, they're working with MetaMask, for example, one of the most
Mm.
popular crypto wallets out there. They're also protecting Curve Finance, which is a major decentralized exchange,
Hmm.
and Starknet, a layer 2 scaling solution for Ethereum. So they've got some serious experience under their belt.
That definitely adds some credibility, for sure. It's like choosing a security system for your home. You'd probably want to go with a company that's been around for a while, you know, one with a good reputation.
Exactly. And their experience working with all these different platforms means they've seen it all. They've encountered a wide range of threats and have come up with some pretty sophisticated solutions to combat them.
Okay, so this is starting to paint a clearer picture for me. Flare's approach to security is multi-layered, it's proactive, and they're partnering with companies that have a solid track record. But can we get even more specific? How does Chain Patrol's AI actually tell the difference between a legitimate transaction and a potentially malicious one? Like, what are the red flags they're looking for?
That's where it gets really interesting. Their AI engine analyzes a ton of factors: the amount of the transaction, the sender's history, the recipient's address, even the time of day. Let's say, for example, you suddenly try to transfer a huge amount of crypto to a brand new wallet, one that has no transaction history. That would definitely raise a red flag because it's unusual behavior.
So it's like your bank flagging your credit card for suspicious activity if you suddenly start spending a ton of money in a different country.
That's a perfect analogy. They also analyze the language used in social media channels, places like Discord. If they detect phrases commonly used in scams like guaranteed returns or limited time offer, those trigger an alert.
So they're not just looking at the technical data, they're also paying attention to the human element. The psychology of these scammers, that's pretty smart.
And this is where the human expertise I mentioned before really comes into play. The AI might flag a transaction as suspicious, but it's the security experts at Chain Patrol who actually investigate it. They determine if it's a genuine threat. They might reach out to the user, analyze more data, or even work with law enforcement if necessary.
So it's like having a real detective on the case, piecing together the evidence to see if there's an actual crime being committed.
Exactly. That combination of AI and human intelligence is what makes Chain Patrol so effective.
Okay, I'm starting to see why this partnership is such a big deal. It's not just some marketing ploy, it's a real commitment to user security. But I think there's still one piece of the puzzle missing here. What does this mean for the future of Web3 security? Is this partnership setting a new standard for the industry?
I think it has the potential to be a real game changer, yeah. For a long time, security in Web3 has been reactive, just focusing on fixing problems after they've already happened. But Flare and Chain Patrol are taking a proactive approach. They're trying to prevent those problems from happening in the first place.
So it's like shifting from just treating the symptoms to actually preventing the disease altogether.
Precisely. And I think other platforms are going to take notice. If Flare can show that this approach actually works, I wouldn't be surprised to see similar partnerships popping up all over the Web3 space.
So it's not just about protecting Flare users. It's about raising the bar for the entire industry.
Exactly. That's why I think this partnership is so significant. It's a sign that the industry is maturing and starting to take security much more seriously, which is good news for everyone.
We've covered a lot of ground here, and I'm feeling a lot more informed about Flare's security strategy and the role that Chain Patrol plays in all of this. But I want to take a step back for a moment and think about the bigger picture here. You said this partnership could be a game changer for Web3 security. What are the broader implications of that? How could this impact the adoption and growth of Web3 as a whole?
Imagine a world where users feel totally confident and secure engaging with Web3 platforms. They know that their assets are protected by cutting-edge technology and human expertise. That level of trust could really be a catalyst for mass adoption. It could change everything.
It's like the early days of the internet. People were hesitant to use it at first. But as security improved and trust grew, it just exploded in popularity.
That's a great comparison. And I think we're at a similar point with Web3. If we can address these security concerns effectively, I think we could see a similar surge in adoption.
So security isn't just a technical issue. It's a key factor in the overall success of Web3. It's about creating an environment where innovation can flourish and users can participate fully without fear.
Absolutely. That's why I'm so excited about this partnership. It's a step in the right direction, and I think it has the potential to unlock the true potential of Web3.
Okay, this has been incredibly insightful. We've gone from a basic understanding of this partnership to exploring its potential impact on the entire Web3 ecosystem. But before we wrap up, I want to talk directly to our listener for a second. So we've talked a lot about the technical side of things, the AI, the partnerships, all that. But at the end of the day, it really comes down to you, the user, right? It's about making sure you feel safe and comfortable, like you could actually explore this whole new world of Web3 without constantly worrying about getting scammed or hacked.
Yeah, absolutely. You hit the nail on the head there. And it's not just about relying on these platforms and companies to keep you safe. You have a responsibility to protect yourself, too. You got to be proactive about it.
Okay, so what can our listeners do to stay safe out there in the wild west of Web3? Any practical tips or advice you can share?
Well, first and foremost, education is key. Take some time to learn about the different types of scams and attacks that are out there. Understand how to protect your private keys and seed phrases, that kind of stuff. There are tons of resources online, even whole courses you can take. It's worth the investment.
So knowledge is power, right? Don't be afraid to have questions, do your research, learn from the mistakes of others, that sort of thing. What else can our listeners do to stay ahead of the scammers?
Be careful about what you share online. That's a big one. Scammers are always looking for those little pieces of personal information they can use to target you. Be wary of clicking on links from sources you don't recognize or responding to messages from people you don't know. And never, ever share your private keys or seed phrases with anyone, no matter what.
It's like that old saying, trust but verify,
Oh.
right? Double check everything, be a little skeptical, don't be afraid to say no if something feels off. Any other advice you can think of?
Oh, absolutely. Consider using a hardware wallet to store your crypto. It's a physical device that keeps your private keys offline. Makes it a lot harder for hackers to get to them. And always keep your software and apps up to date. Those updates often include security patches that protect you from the latest vulnerabilities.
So be proactive. Don't wait for something bad to happen. Take steps to protect yourself right from the start. I know it can seem like a lot, but it's really just about forming good habits and being aware of the risks.
Exactly. And remember, Web3 is constantly changing. It's a fast-moving space. New threats are popping up all the time, so you got to stay informed and adapt your security practices accordingly.
It's like a game of cat and mouse, right?
Yeah.
The scammers are always trying to find new ways to trick people, so we need to stay vigilant. But don't let all this discourage you. The benefits of Web3 far outweigh the risks, as long as you're taking the necessary precautions.
Couldn't agree more. Web3 has the potential to change so many things for the better. It's about empowering people, creating more transparent systems, and unlocking new opportunities that we couldn't have even imagined before. And by working together, I think we can make it a safe and accessible space for everyone.
That's a great point to end on. It's not just about protecting ourselves. It's about building a better future for Web3 as a whole.
Well said.
All right, so we've explored the complexities of Web3 security. We took a deep dive into Flare's partnership with Chain Patrol, and hopefully we've given our listeners some practical tips to stay safe out there. We hope you found this deep dive insightful and empowering, and maybe even a little bit exciting.
As always, stay curious, stay informed, and stay safe in the world of Web3.
We'll catch you on the next deep dive.